He's been called the funniest man in America that you've never heard of. He is for sure the most creative person that I've ever met, and he shares memories of the Big Eight during the golden years.
Gary Burbank.
So we caught up with Gary in Florida at the River Estate or the River House. What would you call that? The River House?
No, I like estate when the way you said it just then. Yeah.
Okay.
But we all have to talk like this. Yeah.
For everybody who's watching right now, because I know at least half of the people who subscribe to this channel are in some other different part of the world than the United States. There's people in Cairo, and there's a lot of people in South Africa and Mexico and other places, and they would not know who Gary is. So let me just tell you a little quickly shot about Gary. Gary is, because he spent a huge amount of time in Kentucky, although that doesn't actually do it. You actually have to be good when you spend a lot of time in Kentucky. Gary's in the Kentucky the Kentucky Radio Hall of Fame. He's in the National Radio Hall of Fame, got inducted same night as Stern and Art LeBeau and Ron Chapman.
But Stern couldn't be bothered to show up because he was very busy. I had a hard time explaining that to people.
Really? Oh,
this is really actually a very important thing to do, but he was helping the sick. Oh, see, that's programmed to do that every time I say something stupid and a lie.
Okay. So he's also had a hit record, Who Shot JR?
Yeah.
Been in a hit band.
I was the road drummer for the Marquis. To be a road drummer, you got to really, you just got to. I don't know what you have to do, actually. I don't remember doing anything. I was pretty high.
He's been an author. He's got a book, Voices in My Head, which is cool because one of the things about that which is going to help me on this is, we worked together for 3 or 4 years and spent a lot of time together, but there was a lot of stuff in that book that I had no idea that you did, which was really, awesome to read about.
I'll try to keep it quiet.
He's also had a group of restaurants, barbecue restaurants, big chain in Ohio and Indiana. And he's, among other things, had the longest running syndication in radio with Earl Pitt.
And now for news and views of the right wing, here's BBC commentator Earl Pitt's American.
You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I won't lick a live battery terminal. Me and my buddy Dub decided to stop in for some chow on the way to the Big Gun and Knife Show. So we walk in one of them yuppie butt delis, and the waitress asked us what we want to eat. We said, what else? Bologna sandwiches. Well, she asked, what kind of bread you want on it? I said, what kind of bread you got? She said, we got rye, dark rye, German rye with curry waste seeds, pumpernickel, crescent rolls, sourdough bread, and something called Peter bread. Peter bread? I mean, who on earth's going to eat a bologna sandwich on something called Peter bread? I said, ain't you got no Wonder Bread? You can't make a real man sandwich unless you got Wonder Bread. Bread ain't supposed to look like some sissified French fudge. Real bread looks like drywall with crust. Wake up, America. If Wonder Bread was good enough to mail me a strong beer gut 12 ways, it's good enough to mail me a bologna sandwich in some yuppie deli. This country was built on white bread, and don't you forget it. I'm Earl Pitt's American. Pitt's all.
I mean, you've got a lot.
And I didn't even know that. As it wound down after 35 years, the people at the agency said, this has never been anybody go this long.
Just to be in radio for 35 years is, that's a huge feat. Yeah. Wow. Let's start out, and then we'll take you through the radio thing. From day one in radio, up until now. But we were sitting around, at the River House, and you started telling me about a story about you're a little kid, you're walking along the street in Memphis, and I can't remember if it was a car or a pickup truck pulls up, and there's a guy inside, young-looking guy, nice-looking, and you recognize him, and he says, "What?"
I was maybe 14 or 15 at the time, and that person. So myself and my friend David Welch, who we still talk about it, that happened. Most people don't believe us, but it is true. we were like, the truck goes by, a panel truck. It goes by, I see it, and I see this guy driving. Profile. That's Elvis Presley. Then, of course, David's going, why would Elvis be driving, but it's him. And no. Well, then he turned in up the street from us a little bit, and I thought, oh, well, I guess not. But then he came out again before we reached that the part of the hill, and there he was, stopped, and said, "How you doing, boys?" Through the window on the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, and I'm hoofing it then because I said, I don't want to ride shotgun. I want to sit next to Elvis so I can touch him. So I'm like, but David has the same idea. But I dove. I'm smaller than Dave, so I dove past him, and he was great though. He laughed, and I was trying to think of something real clever to say. So I said,
Right.
"You're Elvis, aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah." I think then he wanted us out, but he stuck with us a little while, and
So how long were you with him about? How long were you with?
Probably 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because
That's
we
awesome.
kept other streets and stuff like that, in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he was just really nice. I mean, well, I won't say that. He was more like, he was a little crazy. There was a girl walking down the street, and I still love this. The girl's walking down the street on the driver's side. Elvis sticks his head out the window, cocks his, he had a straw hat or something like that. The hat back, said, "Hey, baby." And the girl goes, "Ah!" Just freaks out to her knees almost. And I said, stop. So he goes, no. I'm thinking then, this is like a bunch of guys, getting together, and driving around and yelling at old people and doing things that are nasty,
That's awesome.
No, but it was just a different thing. But it's an important story in my life because I was the first one. He got to my house first, and usually there are 1,000 kids playing there that time of day. Nothing, not even an ant. There's just nothing there. And I'm getting out going, okay, thanks for the ride, Elvis. Thank you, Elvis. And he's laughing, and I got him laughing a few times, and he was what a great guy though. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you. And this is later on in life. This is later, like a few years down the road. We pulled up to the theater. We said, "Is Elvis here?" The guy goes, "Yeah," with a marquise. And he goes, "Okay." And I'll go tell him, see if he can come in. Okay. And he came out and said, "Yeah, Elvis likes you guys." So we go, okay. Yeah. And we didn't bother to tell him that we weren't on the session, but
Yeah.
we never
So
did that anyway.
It was you and some of the band members that came?
Yeah. It was about me, Charlie Freeman, Duck. No, it wasn't Duck Dunn then. It was Duck. Duck had graduated from the road bunch, and but it was really cool. But here's the cool part. Because remember, I had seen him 5 years before, approximately.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as I was standing there, and here he comes through that curtain. I didn't. And as I walked past him, I knew I was not going to say, "Hi, Elvis." I said, "Just be cool," As I passed him, I said, "Hello," and he goes, "Huh? Yeah, huh?" And then he gets about 3 steps past me, and he looks at me, and as he turned around again, he said, "How you doing?" And remember, 5 years, he's seen 1 billion people in his face in all that time. But for some reason, he saw this ugly little skinny kid, and and he said, I know that kid. Yeah. And sure enough, and we talked a little bit, not much. But it was pretty cool. All of a sudden, and it pointed too, I mean, that he would remember. He didn't remember. I guess he didn't remember, but he kind of remembered, Well,
he recognized. He knows you from somewhere. You just can't replace it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very neat.
So then, yeah, that's my Elvis. That's about it for Elvis and me.
Great Elvis story. Well, while we're on the Marquis, you must have been in the Marquis before you got in the radio, I would assume, right? That's kind of the way I remember? Yeah.
I started playing drums when I went in the Army. They wanted a drummer in one thing, and I said, yeah, I can do that. And I'd never had before, but I figured how hard.
So you had never drummed before, so you talked your way in, pretty much.
then you got to perform, man.
Yeah. So you start out drumming with the Marquis, but you hadn't drummed before. How long would it take you to kind of get up to speed where you're not horrible that you can actually play? How long is that process?
Because I had drummed before. I had not really not paying and all that kind of stuff. Not gig.
Yeah.
But I knew. I can keep a beat up here, and with my right hand and my left hand. I'm still using it like with the fingers separated. Like drummers do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And it was easy, and the songs weren't hard. You could just use a bass drum with a little offbeat or something like that. You were okay in those days. Yeah.
Let's just jump ahead to radio. You take your first radio job in a really small town. Like everybody else.
I was going to a thing downtown, a radio school.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
A few friends and I were walking by it, and I saw it, and I saw the guy talking on the air, but he wasn't on the air because they didn't have a station. So I walked in the front door, and we talked, and I talked to him again a couple of times, stopped off, and there were a few teachers there that I still remember. I still owe them $60.
Did the school get you, or did you just mail out tapes to?
They got me a job in Lake Providence, Louisiana. How
big is that town?
Oh my God! Let me see. One building. No. It was a typical small town. Had a theater in it, so
Okay. And you get hired for what shift? Your first shift is doing
morning drive.
Wow.
Morning drive is in Lake Providence was basically like everybody was still asleep at 11.
Right. So is that the first place? Again, for those of you who don't know, Gary went down a slightly different path in radio than probably the majority of people, which I think was a huge part of his success. He started doing characters and an enormous amount of characters, which actually we're going to talk about for a lesson on characters at a different point. But we'll go through writing them for characters and a whole bunch of other things. Is that where you started doing characters?
That's where I started doing characters. Was in Lake Providence, and they showed me around the station and how to work the board and here's a teletype machine and all this that you'll need. Yeah. And I was coming in Monday morning at 5 o'clock, something like that. So I'm pretty nervous.
Sure. Yeah.
But not nervous enough that I didn't fall to sleep.
What?
Well, musicians go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
And so I did that. But I didn't mean to because I didn't sleep at all. I was all excited about my job. So I go in there and I have a key to the building and everything, and I go in there and unlock it. And man, it's so cool. I'm in radio now.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with a turntable going, and I had a record. But see, like I said, I fell asleep.
Did you get many calls going like
none? None, not a single call. None.
Wow.
And I wasn't doing anything either, so nobody liked it. I was sleeping.
Right.
And so I slept about maybe 15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And woke with a start. So I pulled it back a little bit in the grooves, and but nobody called again. I thought to myself, nobody listens to this damn station. I remember, looking at this thing and realizing I had to somehow get back into the role here of disc jockey. So as Andy Williams finishes up, and that was Andy Williams, and this is. And I wasn't Gary Burbank at the time. They named me Bill Williams. So I'm easy, and say things like that. Sure.
The guy that hired me when I first got into radio, the very first station, the PD name was Bill Williams. What's the odds of that?
Oh, really?
That-
Whoa.
yeah. Well, he called himself Billy Williams, but yeah.
Bill Williams.
Uh,
Well, that's what was my name, I guess, but for only 6 months, I guess. But the character situation you mentioned
Yeah.
was like I was one of my first thoughts. I got into the newscast. I mean, everything was going fine. I thought to myself, you know what? I could like do a 2-man show here. And so I started, So I saw, that was Andy Williams, and in the middle of that, I said, "What do you think, Jim?" And Jim sounded just exactly like me. And I mean, I could have done something different, at the time. But I just
you're starting out,
weird.
yeah.
I was just going around and around doing like that. And so I did that for, I bet you, 3 months.
Did you just wing it when you're talking to him, or did you write out stuff for him, like you obviously did later on?
No, I winged it. I winged it, but I knew where I was going. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing you can do when you are doing this kind of thing, voices and things like that. You try to keep it as normal sounding as you can, and that makes it more believable. And so, but I hadn't done any voices yet, except my own. And I was talking like this. I thought I got on the radio.
So let's jump ahead to Louisville, because you were at a bunch of stations in Louisville. Big ones, KLO, Wacky was huge.
No, I was only on Wacky. I was only on HAS. I was on WHAS.
Oh, I thought you were on KLO too. No. Willie was on. We'll get to him.
Willie was on KLO. Yeah.
KLO. Yeah.
He was opposite me, and the old Duke of Louisville, Bill Bailey.
Duke. Yeah. Legendary guy. Yeah.
He was magic. I mean, he could. Whoever had him is going to be number one. That book. It didn't matter. Yeah. Because he would do things like, at one point, I don't know about this, but he did it. I know, I saw that. He was on his hands and knees on the air, praying that his wife would die of cancer.
Oh man,
this is not good, kids. You're going to learn to be in radio. But somehow it worked for Bill Bailey. And
wow.
He died not long ago. We used to go, Carol and I, my wife, we used to go to about once a month, see him in home. Mm-hmm. And we found that he was announcing the dinner. And of course, and if you live through the green peas,
we have a mutual friend, Bill Gable. Billy has since passed on, but Billy would go in to be impersonating the Duke of Louisville. When he'd do that gruff thing, and he would, it was hilarious. I wish Bill was still with us so he could, do some of those. Wow. So you're on Wacky, and who was the PD there? Johnny Randolph.
Well, I went to WMPS from KLPL.
Oh, you went Memphis first. Okay,
that
sorry.
Was in Monroe, and then to the WMPS, where you work for Plow, and you're speaking around the pear-shaped tones, and that's when I started incorporating characters. I did it like easy, I didn't just bam, right. 57 characters I do,
When you got to Wacky in Louisville, and Wacky being, at the time, at least as I remember, it was a full-blown, in-your-face top 40 station.
Oh, yeah. One of the best stations I've ever worked. I think they came out in a survey in the top 10 or something like that. And I thought,
it was a great station.
I said, that station ought to be number one.
You still doing characters at Wacky too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That was when I really got into it. If it was a guy in the news and I heard him talking on a newscast, I would get his voice, and I could do that. I don't know how, but it would just kind of come to me, and I could do that voice in an interview after he finished the record. After his song was over, he would just if it's Tommy Rowe or something like that. Yeah. Then after it was over, then we would speak.
Yeah, you're pretty interesting in that you could you're kind of like an audio chameleon of hearing something, and then you can kind of, I don't know how you can distort your voice. It's like, wow, that's like the same guy. Not a lot of people can do that.
See, I didn't think about that at the time. Like I did that at home all the time. I was, my mother had to put up with me,
right,
doing all that. But she's pretty wild too.
So You did a pretty, I find a pretty remarkable thing because I just wanted to check before this. So I was, looking online at WDIA,
Oh yeah,
and for those of you watching WDIA, and you were there probably in the '60s, I would assume.
yeah,
Yeah. So okay. So Gary is at WDIA in Memphis in the '60s. So what was cool about this, for Gary doing this, that this was this is in the '60s, and this is a legendary black radio station, black owned, black
yes.
run,
I mean,
black.
there had never been a white man on the second floor, with the
Except for you.
Exactly. Yeah, there was like, no, you're right. I was the only white guy on the second floor, and working at that radio station with Rufus Thomas. Rufus.
Wow, walking the dog. Walking the dog.
Walking the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was Rufus Thomas, A.C. Williams. I know all the guys, and I was the only. But it didn't matter, I mean, I saw then how none of this even matters. I'm sure it does in the hearts of people who are trying to get laws passed and things like that.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just I didn't feel that way, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and obviously they didn't either. But for the whole group of you, that was pretty progressive at the time, knowing it's the '60s. You know what I mean? It's particularly, and you're in the South, or you're right on the edge of the South, or Memphis, I don't know. Memphis is in the South, pretty much.
It is. We've denied it for years, but somebody found it on the map.
So let's jump ahead a little bit, and you get a job in New Orleans as the program director at WNOE. First question, did you want to be a PD, or did somebody just offer you the job as a PD? In other words, were you burning to be a PD, or did you was like, all right, I'll just take it, see what happens?
I wanted to have a fern.
A what?
A fern.
A fern in an office?
In an office, yeah. That's really why I did it. Because Bill comes to me and says, we want to hire you for that, because he was working at that station at the time, NOE.
So you get to the station, and as I recall, it was owned by the governor or the past governor or some senator, something of Louisiana.
Governor No had been made governor some years before.
Yeah.
And, I think he was still alive when we went in there, and before WNOE it was a great station before we got there, and so we didn't hop on that too bad, but we were way more rocking than Tix was at the time. Tix is a good station too, so but we were doing well, and then all of a sudden Hennis comes in from CKLW, and I knew him as being on competition with him.
Yeah.
And said, "You want to come to CKLW, do morning drive?" And I said, "I can't turn that down. I mean, it's against the law to turn that down. And then it's CKLW. I mean, really, if I turn it down, they'll put a hitman out on me." So that's it. Yeah.
So what else? Was there anything else running through your mind, like where you're like, "Oh my God, is this the right move?" I mean, obviously you think, "Yeah, I got to take it and take the shot, and hopefully I can pull this off." But like, were you scared? Were you like nervous? Were you like, "Oh, what am I doing?" And I guess the other question would be, I'm asking a lot of questions all in one shot here. Had you done mornings up until that point? Because I'm not really sure what you had done. Did you do mornings in New Orleans?
That's not the best place for my humor is not morning. I mean, it was, some of it was good. That time of day. I guess it was okay. Gilbert Gnarly was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I did that, but the real satirical part of what I did wasn't really talked about much, and a lot of people didn't really get it, and a lot of people didn't get it because it wasn't funny. And like in school, I was never able to just throw a line out, but I got to the point where I kind of could, and so. And then you're there, time to be funny. Bam, I can be funny.
I remember listening to you and when you were on CK in the mornings, and it struck me at the time. I said, "Gee, some of these bits need to be. You need a little bit longer time to have them breathe to actually, like you would have in afternoon drive. You know what I mean? Where you can actually do do the setup, do the whole thing. You're not. You're not time sensitive. You're not handicapped, so to speak. I guess.
Right.
You're crossing the border, and it's you, and it's your wife Carol, and Tracy's little kid at the time, and you also had a monkey.
Yeah. The last I saw the monkey was up a tree, and it took its diaper, and I say a tree. There's an inside tree, and he took the diaper off that had the wacky loves me heart on it, and threw it right at the camera. And yeah.
One of the things that Gary had too, probably a lot of things you forget. Funny how different people remember different things about that stuff. You guys have had the first video setup that I had ever seen. With the big reel to reel video stuff. And the camera and and filming. You guys were filming funny commercials at the house with the monkey and stuff like that.
Nobody had a recorder for TV back in those days.
No, yeah.
Lynn had this thing, and I don't know how I got it, but he had one. They asked us if we would tape the games, and they could go over, and this would be their tapes. They could do their work, and all we had to do was just hit the on button. Well, that's not all we're going to do.
Right.
Right. We were idiots. So we decided, okay, we'll give them a little entertainment in between. So, I got my guitar and okay, let's get back to the game. But first, you ever heard this? You do some song. It's goofy. They made it. By the way, we don't need the commercials. I said, well, too bad. You got them.
You ended up with like all of the jocks and girlfriends and other, wives, whatever, at your house almost every night. It would seem like. And like,
yeah.
I mean, was that sort of normal? I know it was normal for there while you were there, but for all the other stations too. Or were you
I think it kind of was. And Carol was just, she was great anyway. I tell you what, Carol made this iced tea, and she's from the South. And she made this iced tea that was just to die for.
They were fun times. They were great.
Oh yeah, I had to put myself in that place again.
One of the reasons I'm kind of doing this series, I mentioned it at the front of this. I'm doing the PD, how to be a PD. If you want to be a PD, here's some things you should know. Series, and in order to do some of the lessons, you sort of have to do stories to make them make sense. And then I put up a thing on Facebook, and I said, hey, I've been thinking about doing another sort of a side channel of just stories. And I had a huge amount of people go, yes. And then I started thinking, just like you just said, it's like, I can't remember a whole lot of what went on there. And like, the ones that would be really interesting and really funny or whatever. It's like, I just remember it was a nice place. I had fun. Great people all around me. I went in and did do a job and left. I mean, that's kind of mostly it. So anyway, but then I started thinking, well, it'd be cool to go through and get other people's memories, just like we're doing right now, and go through all of the jocks who are, who were there, who are, still alive, because, that's the other part. A lot of us are, 15 years from now, most of us aren't going to be here. You and me, I'm sure we'll be both gone. Yeah.
We'll be hanging out with Billy.
Yes, we will. Yeah. But you were the first person that I ever saw who did a show. And then, as I recall, at least the way you described it, you did a show, the morning show. You would go home, have breakfast and go to sleep for a few hours. And then you would get up and you would write for the next day. You would do heavy duty show prep for 3 hours, 4 hours. How long would the show prep go, would you say?
I mean, until something good came on TV. It was pretty laid back. It was just like Carol knew what I was doing, and I'd sit there. She had trouble with it in the morning when I was writing in the morning, but then again I was working mornings there, so I
I was always amazed at a couple things at that time, because you had mentioned that I kind of had seen you do like show prep for like 3 hours, which maybe now doesn't seem like that much, but back then that was pretty radical, really. Full on show prep for 3 hours, and then stay up with all the guys till like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then do a morning show at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like,
I was young.
Yeah.
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 Now I go to sleep at the top of a hat.
When you first got there, and as I recall, there was a huge party for you at one of the hotels. As I recall, the entertainment was the Four Tops. So this is a closed party. Was it the Four Tops?
Yeah, the Four Tops.
Or
Yeah. That was very cool. I mean, and Barry Manilow.
Yeah. Later, another one later on. Did you?
I heard you have these parties.
Yeah. He had one with B.J. Thomas too, and they're heavy duty acts in their prime. Barry Manilow. I don't know if you remember this, but Barry Manilow came and it was at some bar downtown, and Barry Manilow does, he does Mandy, and he does at the Copen some other song, and because it's all agency people, basically there, there's just a roar of the crowd. Not at him, but everybody's talking amongst each other. You could barely hear him sing.
You couldn't hear him sing. He kept looking.
He does. I don't know if you know this. He did 3 songs max, and he's supposed to do more. And he just leaves. He just walks off.
Just we're done. Come on, screw this.
No. Everybody's ignoring me. I'm out of here. Yeah. Going back to the Four Tops thing, and they announce you, and they, you got to say something in front of all the people and stuff. You're the new morning man at CK. Do you remember what was running through your head then? I would think you'd be like, if it was me, I'd be freaking a bit. Oh man,
I was.
This is pressure. Yeah.
Because I wasn't a big drinker. I'm a better drinker than I used to be. I can drink more.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Were you scared? Were you terrified? Were you like, oh my God, what? Big time.
That happened to me when I had Who Shot JR out. I was on a talk show. This was a national one. I can't think of who he is.
Kind of like Ellen or something. Somebody big.
Yeah. They asked me. We came into the green room. I was sitting there with Carol in the green room, and we came in, and the guy says, "Mr. Burbank," I said, "Yes." He says, "You follow the Temptations."
Whoa. Hello.
Can I follow the cooking lady? And I did, but whew. That's scary.
Yeah.
When the guy says, "You follow the Temptations."
I think for most people, when you're in radio, or maybe just in show business in general, but if you're pretty decent at it, you really get good at improvising and winging almost instantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The situations that go, I got to do this. Yeah. And you can go
What's
with
weighing
it.
On this is what I'm thinking about, because I got to get to here. And, for a different story that has a tie to this one. So when do I go? And I don't know. And what you do is you feel it. It's like it's like you're dancing or something.
So much of it just becomes instinct of doing it. For years and years and years.
That's what you're really going for. How much of the instinct you use, but you always have it. And if you have that, the feeling you have for what you do, and you enjoy it, and you want to make it better, then that's what's going to happen. You're gonna screw up a couple of times.
When you were doing mornings, for people who were watching too, Gary was doing mornings. And there's a big team at CKLW at the time.
Oh yeah,
it was 15 or 20 people in the newsroom alone. This is a radio station with 15 or 20 people, and the news director who also did mornings with Gary was Byron McGregor, and Byron from the gold record million seller, the song called The Americans.
Byron McGregor just walked in, folks, along with JoJo. This is too wild.
Let's have it from the real thing. Let's have the real thing. Let's have the real thing.
You mean this just in? This just in?
You and he used to pull pranks on each other that were legendary.
He was good, man. It all started when I came into CK, and I meet Byron, and Byron, starts talking this. Byron is putting you on. Usually, when you meet him, he's just, he wants to be like he is on the record, but he doesn't really. He's just making you freak out.
Yeah.
And and he got me a couple of good times, and I thought, wolf tickets. That's what we call them.
Wolf tickets?
They said wolf tickets, like the boy who cried wolf. Byron would walk down the hallway, and the record and the Americans was out. I mean, he was making billions of dollars for somebody else, I'm afraid.
Red Cross, yeah.
Yeah, and so, but Byron would walk down the hallway, usually the best dressed man I've ever seen, always.
Absolutely, yeah.
Suit, tie, voice, perfect, and every little letter is sounded. And Byron was he would walk down the hallway. He'd go, "Hey, Byron," you go, "Let's talk about me."
Yeah, you do this.
He was throwing out. He had thrown out a pitch from the pitcher's mound at Tiger Stadium. Byron had recorded something, and he wanted some music behind it. So he told me, "Give this to him, and then he can do that." I said, "Okay, sure." So I did, and put a little something on the end of it, So Byron is standing on the mound, and he's not doing the Americans. He's doing, and this is one Canadian who, some of it, does so.
Packed stadium. Stadium's packed.
And the music is playing, and then the music goes da da, and people are standing there going oh, da 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 da. That's all, folks.
I remember that.
So he dropped 2 tons of horse crap in my driveway.
How did you get out that morning? You go out in the morning and there's there's a mound of of horse shit in front of you.
I had to get to work. I almost pulled it off too, because what I did was I had to get to work. So I think I go outside. I don't know there's going to be that much horse crap.
Right.
And sure, my car's right in the middle of it. I go, oh God. So I get in it and I have to go boom, hit the front, reverse, bam, hit the back of it, hit the front of it, and pretty soon I got it cleared out, and that's where I could and get to work. So I got to work, parked the car, came in. Randall Carlisle, my news guy, he was just talking about this and that, and they're all looking at me. I knew they were, going, wow. So finally, on the air, Randall Carlisle says, "Gary," he said, you keep acting like nothing's going on. We got a call, and your house, police are there. They're doing this and doing that and everything like that. And I said, "The house I used to live in here?" And he goes, "You used to live?" Because they knew, because I was talking about moving in Carolina. We moved. You could see some people starting to sweat, I'm thinking, I got this. But at the last minute, Randall Carlisle walks in. "I just walked outside, and it's all over your car. Okay.
I guess today you wouldn't drop 5 tons of horse manure in somebody's driveway.
Gary Burbank, you share that story. Share that story. Remember?
For those of you who watching, Coleman Young was the mayor of Detroit for many years, and Coleman Young was black, but so Gary invented a character which you probably couldn't do now, but I mean it was just all in fun.
Yeah,
instead of Coleman Young, it was Soulman Young.
Soulman Young. Yeah.
I mean, you had his voice down. I mean, it was really close.
I mean, that was one of those lucky ones where you play it back. Somebody sitting next to me, like I remember saying, "That sounds just like him." Really? Okay, good. Okay, so then I would have him calling me in the morning, and we were actually friends on the phone, So this great big huge guy walks in, nothing but muscles, and they start speaking about my situation with Coleman Young. I wasn't on him any more than I was anybody else. I mean, I just found the funny side of them, and some of them took themselves very seriously.
Yeah.
And so then I had to go, incoming. And this guy comes in, and wow. And he told the guy that was it. We want you to fire Burbank or else. We have friends at the FCC. And Herb leans in and he goes like, "What are our call letters?" He went, "CKLW." And he goes like, "No F in that, is it?" No F. No effing around here, pal. We're Canadian.
Yeah, yeah.
He said the guy then turned around, walked out, never saw him again.
Good for Herb though for shutting that down.
Yeah, Herb is he was like that. I mean, that was part of that. Herb had your back, and I need to know that when I'm going into a station. Bill did the same thing at WNOE, and everywhere I've worked. Managers, have been great. And I explained, here's why I'm doing this. I had some, things go awry, and I lost control. But so what?
I was going to ask you this as the last question, but I'm going to do it now. But you just sort of brought it up and went into it. You, by any stretch, would be considered a very high-profile personality person on the radio. You're not just doing liners. You're not just doing the typical jock stuff. You are doing personality, in many instances, long-form funny or long-form satire characters. You're running the gamut and stuff like that. For you, so if you're a PD right now and you have somebody who's in the vein of the way I'm describing Gary, let's go to Gary now. Gary, what kind of a PD, obviously you just mentioned manager, somebody to have your back. What kind of PD did you like working for and you thought got the best shows out of you? What was their demeanor or personality?
I like for the PD to speak up every now and then, but in a civil way, and because he'll get a lot out of me if he's civil. I just I've had so many dumb things I've done that didn't work, and I found out from the program director. Willie came to me about something one time. I was doing something. So that's kind of, but he straightened me out, and he was amazed that I was would take direction like that. Well, of course if it's good direction, but I've had program directors. What was the one guy in Tampa? And I walked by his office. As I walked by the door, he yelled out that bitch you did wasn't very funny. And I walked in and I said, what does CVS stand for? And he said, I don't know. See, he wasn't from there. And I said, it's a drugstore. And here's the bit now.
Certainly that was not the way to handle somebody on the air, because people on the air are would actually like some feedback. But again, you got to be nice about it. And because I was going to say egos are fragile. It's not so much egos are fragile. You don't want somebody to lose the not being afraid to jump ahead and do something. You don't want them to start talking to them in their own head of, hey, this will be fun. Oh, maybe it won't be funny. He'll probably say it won't be funny, and boom, then they won't do it. You don't want somebody to even entertain that thought. You want to be sort of fearless and just go and fix it afterward, or not do it again, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could see if he's uncomfortable with it. That's going to make me think for too. He may know something I don't know.
Right.
And so I dig it out and find out, and then okay, I won't do that again. If it's really good and it's really laughable and all that stuff. Willie was always the kind of guy that would like, oh, never mind, that's good.
So after CK, you go back to Louisville, and I think Tampa was in there too, and then you go to Cincinnati with Randy Michaels at WLW.
By then I had met Randy Michaels, and was a wonderful man. He did a lot of. A lot of people are down on him about the.
I think a lot of people think that sometimes when he was the president of Clear Channel, that he ruined radio with voice tracking and other stuff. But in reality, I mean, as you can see right now, the way the world has gone, digital stuff, he didn't ruin it. He was just way ahead of its time.
He wanted to do just that. He was trying to be in charge of just enough where there was some great radio around.
You're at WLW, and you're doing afternoon drive, and how long did you do that? It was a huge amount of years.
27.
27 years on the radio.
I started and I loved WLW. I mean, and I'll tell you a quick little story why. When I was in the Army and I was in Germany, and we were in Burbank, Germany, and there was something was happening around. There were a lot of guards and stuff like that. But there was a car, there was a Jeep actually. And the Jeep, the guys were waving somebody over here. It was an American radio station they were picking up, WLW. I never forgot about it. And then all of a sudden I come upon WLW. That's where I was listening to, back in those early days.
For a while there, my understanding was they had something like 500,000 watts because they had, or 300 or something like that.
They did.
Until the FCC started putting limits on things. So you probably heard the 500,000 watts.
I probably did. It was the Nation station or something like that.
Yeah.
One woman was talking about she kept getting it in her teeth.
If there was a manager watching right now, as an example, and you had a morning show that you wanted it to make it better, how much difference does that make when you actually put a pretty decent crew around somebody, assuming they have talent, and to try to raise the whole thing up?
Make sure they're on his side.
Okay.
Right off. I mean, because you don't know, there are some bad guys out there. Make sure they're friendly with each other and they're enjoying it. You can listen to it and see if this person is capable of doing, what, and then use him for what he does best.
Of all the stations that you worked at, where do you don't have to say CK, but, and I would assume it would be LW, but maybe.
No, I wouldn't say CK for my kind of show. I think probably it would have been LW.
WOW?
Because and they didn't inhibit me. They were always supportive. But also CK was very supportive. So I think, but for some reason, and I don't know what it is. I always felt like when I was that long run at WLW. Was just just amazing, and I never worried about a thing. I never plus too, I was getting closer to retirement, and so I got to the point of where now I'm retiring, and then I realized that's it. I did that pretty well.
Do you remember what was running through your head the last show? I mean, it's the last show of an enormous amount of time in radio.
Oh yeah, just don't cry. And I didn't. I almost did when Seg came in. Seg came in and to do sports, and as we started going, I noticed he wasn't even talking to me, and I was hey, and then he looked up. I saw a tear coming down there. And I'm like, here I go. Don't do it. And I don't think I did actually.
All right. Well, I thank you big time, sir.
We had a hard time getting our computers all together, but I think it worked great.
Technology for old guys.
No, I'm still being pulled kicking and screaming into this century. I don't like it here.
Yeah.
But where else am I going to go?
True. Yeah, we're here. All right. Thank you, sir. We'll see you, Gary. See you in the next one.
For 25 years, he's been the only good reason to get caught in traffic on the drive home.
Well, hello, how are you, Gary Burbank?
Gary Burbank's final 3-hour show came in front of a packed studio of fans.
Well, I wanted to wish you the best.
And old friends like former radio partner Doc Wolf and former colleague Bob Trumpy.
Bob was a little late getting up here because he was letting the air out of your tires.
Trumpy would do that when somebody got in his parking place.
But the laughter gave way to tears when Bill Segman Dennison said his farewell.
I just want to say thanks for allowing me to be a small part of your radio genius.
As for Burbank, he said he was determined not to cry on his way out the door. He said goodbye with one last song.
I love everybody, especially you. I love everybody, especially you.
Just say, it was a funny ride home. Yeah, that'd be cool.
For Duke Sinatra, Slim Tempo, Rob Irvin, I'm Gary Burbank. Goodbye.
Know that it's true. I